Hey, welcome. You ever feel like you're just drowning in business advice?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
One minute it's this hot new strategy, the next it's some, game-changing check you have to have.
It's a lot. It really is. Kind of a roller coaster, like you said.
Yeah. And honestly, how often do those miracle cures, those trendy solutions, actually stick around or deliver?
Not often enough, I think. It's a feeling a lot of people probably share, right? That constant pressure to chase the next big thing.
It's exhausting.
It really is. And, it often pulls focus from what actually works long term, what builds real sustainable success.
Exactly. And that's really what we want to get into today. We're going to talk about like the core, the heart of businesses and careers that actually thrive.
Which is
Getting down to the nitty-gritty, right?
where?
Figuring out what people really need and finding ways to genuinely help them.
Ah, okay. So less about the shiny objects, more about the actual problems.
Precisely. We'll explore why just chasing trends can be, well, a bit of a dead end, honestly, and what we should really be focusing on to make a difference.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
All right, so where do we start? Maybe with the pitfalls. Why is chasing trends so risky?
Yeah, well, one of the first things that jumps out, something Zardis mentioned in the materials, is just how fleeting these trends can be.
Right. Here today, gone tomorrow.
Exactly. So if your whole business, your whole strategy is built on something that might just vanish next year, well, that's a pretty shaky foundation, isn't it?
Yeah, you're setting yourself up for trouble. You could become irrelevant pretty fast.
Right. And it makes me think of something else, this idea from the tech startup source
Yeah.
about technology looking for a problem.
Yes. Building the cool thing first and then hoping someone needs it.
You got it. You see it a lot, especially now with, say, AI. Suddenly there are tons of AI tools popping up everywhere.
Yeah, AI for this, AI for that.
Right. But is there always a clear need, a real problem being solved? Sometimes, maybe not so much.
And that source, tech startups, pointed out that this leads to really crowded markets, right?
You get loads of copycat products, often easy to replicate, but if they're not tackling a genuine, unique pain point, what makes any of them stand out? Where's the lasting value?
It's a race to the bottom sometimes.
It can be. And we've seen this play out, haven't we? Remember the chatbot craze a few years back?
Oh, yeah. Everyone needed a chatbot.
Right. Tech startups brought that up. The hype was huge, future of customer service, but the tech often wasn't quite there yet, was it?
No. You'd get stuck talking in circles with a bot that couldn't actually help you. So frustrating.
Exactly. The chick existed, kind of, but the actual user experience, the real-world help, often missing.
What else? Any other examples jump out?
Well, the article also mentioned Color Labs, remember that? Location-based photo sharing.
Vaguely. It got a lot of buzz, didn't it?
Huge buzz, tons of funding, but people were just confused. It wasn't clear what problem it actually solved for them. What was it for?
Yeah, if people don't get it, they won't use it.
Simple as that. And then there's the classic, Juicero.
Juicero, yes. Everyone brings that one up.
And for good reason, tech startups nails it. This super complex, Wi-Fi connected, expensive machine
To squeeze a bag of pre-cut fruit pulp.
that you could literally just squeeze with your hands for free.
It's almost unbelievable.
It really is the poster child for over-engineering a solution to a problem that basically didn't exist. Raised millions then, poof, gone.
The big takeaway there seems to be, just because you can build something complex and fancy doesn't mean anyone needs it.
Absolutely. Sometimes simpler is way, way better. The source also mentions IBM's Watson for Oncology.
Right, that sounded so promising, using AI for cancer treatment.
Incredible potential, right.
Yeah.
But the reality, integrating it into actual hospital workflows was apparently really clunky, difficult, and there were even some serious concerns about its accuracy sometimes.
Wow, so even really powerful tech needs to fit the real world.
Exactly. It has to solve a real need within the existing messy reality of how things work. It can't just be cool tech in a vacuum.
These examples really drive the point home.
Yeah.
And tech startups had that whole list, didn't they? Ship, PP, Sprig.
Yik Yak, Doppler Labs.
Yeah.
Yeah, startups with huge funding, big ambitions.
But they ultimately failed.
Stumbled, yeah. Because they weren't solving a big enough problem, or they didn't quite find that product market fit didn't connect with what people actually wanted and were willing to pay for.
So the insight is clear. Without that solid connection to a real customer need, even a clever idea or lots of cash isn't enough.
And what's fascinating is that many weren't obviously bad ideas. They just weren't deeply rooted in understanding that customer pain.
Right. And that source also mentioned how chasing trends makes it hard to stand out
Mm.
if everyone's doing the same thing.
What makes you special? What's your unique contribution? It's tough. Plus, there's the risk of, ethical issues or legal problems if you're just jumping on hype without thinking it through.
Okay, so chasing trends off risky, often doesn't last, hard to differentiate. Let's flip it then. What about the other side? The power of focusing on problems.
Ugh, now that's where it gets interesting. Maria Franzoni had a great point in one of the sources. She basically said problem solvers are always on trend
Oh, I like that. Why?
because there will always be problems to solve. Regardless of the economy, regardless of the latest fad, it's just a much more stable way to operate.
That makes a lot of sense. It's foundational.
Exactly. And Live plan define business problem solving pretty well. It's about, setting up ways to reduce risks or remove the roadblocks stopping you from reaching your goals.
So it's not just fixing things when they break.
Not entirely. It's often about tackling these complex, ongoing challenges that don't have obvious quick fixes. The key idea is being proactive, building systems, not just reacting.
And LivePlan also talked about needing a process for this, right? It's not
Yeah.
just random guesswork.
Definitely. You need structure. They mention things like, first, really evaluating and understanding the problem deep down, then exploring different potential solutions, then prioritizing which ones to actually try, executing them, and this is super important, measuring whether they actually worked. Did you solve the problem?
Gotcha. Understand, explore, prioritize, measure. So the million-dollar question then, how do we actually figure out what the real problems are? Especially if our own assumptions can be wrong.
Yeah, that's crucial. And the sources, like Zardis, are really clear.
Yeah.
You absolutely have to talk to your customers directly.
Get out of the building, as they say.
Pretty much. Because, like you said, our assumptions, often way off base. You need those real conversations to find out what they're actually struggling with. The core message is, don't guess, ask.
Okay, so talk to people. How? What kind of methods did the sources suggest?
Well, Zardis and Maria Franzoni had a bunch. Direct conversations are key. Interviews, surveys, maybe even focus groups or roundtables. But also just observing behavior. How are people actually using your product or service? Where do they get stuck? Where do they drop off? What are the common complaints?
Yeah, the complaints. Customer support must be a goldmine then.
Totally. What are the recurring themes? What keeps coming up again and again? And Zardis made a really good point about being genuinely open to criticism.
That can be tough, though.
It can, but that negative feedback is pure gold if you use it right. It shows you exactly where you need to improve. Think of complaints not as failures, but as free consulting almost.
That's a good way to frame it. Opportunities to learn.
Exactly. And Maria Frandoni added more ways. Asking clients specific questions about their industry, their daily work challenges, really listening when they mention issues, even casually.
So paying attention beyond just the formal feedback channels.
Right. Staying informed with industry news, using online surveys, going to industry events, checking social media for frustrations, even analyzing your FAQs. It's all part of being a good problem detective.
Okay, so you've done your detective work. You have a handle on the pain points. What's next? Is it just about selling them your thing?
Well, Zardis suggests a shift in thinking here. It's not just offering a product or service, it's positioning yourself as the solution to their specific problem.
Shifting from features to solutions.
Precisely. Focusing on the impact you deliver, not just the thing you sell. Because ultimately, people buy relief from their problems. They buy outcomes.
That makes sense. People don't buy a drill bit, they buy a hole in the wall.
Exactly that. And Zardis noted that being a great provider isn't just about being efficient or having expertise. It's about delivering tangible, positive results for your clients. Impact over just, doing the tasks.
So how do you actually position yourself that way as the solution provider?
Zardis had some practical tips. Start with the problem the client has, not with your product features. Tailor your approach. Customize it for their specific situation.
Okay, no one size fits all.
Right. And then clearly explain how your solution directly addresses their pain points. Connect the dots for them. And finally, aim to over-deliver. Give them even more value than they expected.
Exceed expectations.
Yeah.
Build that trust.
Exactly. That's how you become the go-to problem solver.
Do we have any examples of companies that really nailed this?
Yeah, Pragmatic Institute shared some really good ones, like the Project Management Institute, PMI. They found that early career project managers were feeling kind of lost, uncertain about their career paths.
Okay, a real feeling of uncertainty. How did PMI figure that out? Did they run big surveys?
Get this, Pragmatic Institute mentioned they used lemonade stands.
Lemonade stand.
Yeah. Like informal setups at events or outside meetings just to chat with people casually and ask about their challenges. Super simple, direct feedback.
I love that. Down to earth.
Right. And that qualitative insight helped them pinpoint that core problem, career path uncertainty.
Closer solution.
They created a platform designed specifically to help those folks explore career options and map out a plan, directly tackling that feeling of being lost.
That's great. Simple conversation leads to understanding, leads to a targeted solution.
Exactly. The insight is, sometimes the best way to understand is just to have a real human conversation.
What other examples were there?
LeaseQuery, now called Finquery, they spotted a huge problem when new lease accounting standards came in.
Oh, yeah, that caused chaos for accountants, didn't it?
Totally. And the existing software just couldn't handle the new rules properly. So LeaseQuery jumped in and built software specifically to solve that problem.
Addressing a very specific, urgent need.
And they didn't stop there. Pragmatic Institute explained how LeaseQuery kept talking to customers systematically, using a whole library of questions, apparently.
A question library. That sounds organized.
Yeah, to really dig into unmet needs and even spot future trends, that helped them expand their offerings beyond just that initial lease accounting fix.
So continuous listening leads to solving current problems and anticipating future ones. Nice.
Yeah. And Pragmatic Institute even turned this lens on themselves. They realized their own alumni people who'd taken their training needed help applying the knowledge back on the job.
The classic knowing versus doing gap.
Right. So they created the Pragmatic Alumni Community, the PATISH, a space for peer support, sharing resources, practical application, addressing that need directly.
So cool. Fostering community as a solution. Okay, so we see the power of focusing on problems, but how do you do it well?
Wow.
Is there a structured approach?
Yeah, LivePlan laid out a pretty useful 10-step process aimed mostly at business owners, but probably helpful for anyone tackling complex issues.
Okay, let's walk through it quickly. What's step one?
Define the problem. Really get clear on it. Look at competitors, your business model, market factors, your team, goal alignment. And crucially, don't just treat the symptoms, dig for the root cause.
Right. Understand what you're really trying to solve. Step two.
Conduct a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, or use a similar framework. It helps you frame the problem within your context.
Got it.
Step three is identifying multiple potential solutions. Use techniques like design thinking, encourage diverse ideas, look beyond the obvious fixes.
Brainstorming options. Step four must be
Market research and customer outreach. That constant feedback loop we keep talking about, keep checking in with the people you're trying to help.
Makes sense. Step five.
Seek input from your team and mentors. Diverse perspectives lead to better solutions. Don't try to solve it all alone in a bubble.
Good advice.
Step six, apply growth planning principles. Be nimble. Plan, execute, review, revise. Be ready and willing to adjust your approach as you learn.
Stay flexible. Okay, seven.
Model different financial scenarios. See how different solutions might impact the bottom line. Minimize risk by planning for various outcomes.
Eight. Sounds like cash flow.
You got it. Watch your cash flow carefully, especially when implementing big changes or solutions. Be proactive.
Nine. Getting close.
Use a decision-making framework. Have a systematic way to evaluate your options and choose the best path forward based on evidence, not just gut feeling.
And finally, step 10.
Identify key metrics to track success. How will you know if your solution worked? Define what success looks like and measure your progress towards it.
That's a solid framework. 10 steps to more structured problem solving.
Yeah, really practical. And LivePlan also mentions some key skills that help with all this.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Things like emotional intelligence, understanding yourself and others, empathy, listening well, research skills, being curious, asking why, digging into issues, brainstorming, effectively collaborating creatively, being open to all ideas initially, decisiveness, being able to make a call and act, and resilience, bouncing back from failures, sticking with it.
Those all sound crucial and things you can consciously work on improving.
Definitely.
Now, you mentioned product market fit earlier. There was also something about problem solution fit. What's the difference there? Gap Scout talked about this, right?
Yeah, Gap Scout drew a really useful distinction. Problem solution fit happens first during the idea stage. It's about confirming, is this a real problem people have? And do we have a viable way to solve it? Do we have the resources, the tech?
Okay, so validating the core idea. Is the problem annoying enough? Can we actually fix it?
Exactly. Whereas product market fit comes later, usually after you've built an initial version, like an MVP. It asks, does the market actually want this specific solution we've built? Are enough people willing to use it or pay for it?
So it's about market demand for your specific product.
Right. Problem solution fit is about the concept. Product market fit is about the execution and its reception in the market. Different stages, different goals.
That's a helpful clarification. Get the problem and solution right first, then worry about fitting the market.
Ideally, yes.
Okay, another common idea, being first. The first mover advantage, is that always the goal? Product Plan had some thoughts on this.
Yeah, they kind of push back on that idea, actually. The myth that being first guarantees success.
It doesn't. Seems intuitive that it would.
Well, they pointed out that while some first movers win big, many, many more just fade away. Being first is often really expensive.
How so?
Think about it. All the R&D costs, navigating regulations maybe, and you often have to spend a ton just educating the market that this new thing even exists and why they need it.
That's true. You're paving the way.
Exactly. And first movers inevitably make mistakes. They learn the hard way, which means...
Someone else can learn from their mistakes.
Precisely. The fast followers. They can watch what the pioneer did wrong, avoid those pitfalls, and often come in with a better, cheaper, or faster version.
They mentioned Steve Blank's quote about pioneers having arrows in their backs.
Yeah, that's the idea. Let someone else take the initial hits. Think about Google, not the first search engine, or Starbucks, not the first coffee shop.
Right. They came later but did it better, or at least differently, and dominated.
So the key takeaway wasn't don't be first, but rather that being a fast follower, watching, learning, and being ready to move quickly and improve is often a very smart strategy.
Though they did say sometimes being first is right.
Yeah, if it's a slam dunk opportunity, or you have an exclusive partnership, or maybe in a really mature market where it's hard to displace incumbents otherwise, but generally don't just race to be first for the sake of it.
Got it. Focus on being better more than just being first.
Often, yeah.
Okay, so bringing this all together, it really seems like all the sources circle back to one main theme, don't they?
Absolutely. Focus on real problems.
Chase Jarvis, the photographer and entrepreneur, he emphasized that, right?
Yeah.
Following your passion and solving problems you genuinely care about gives you more staying power.
Yeah, authenticity matters. You'll stick with it longer if you actually care, compared to just chasing the latest hot trend because you think you should.
And Danny Moses had that analogy, don't look at the board.
Right. Don't be constantly swayed by what everyone else is doing. Focus on your own work, the fundamentals of the problem you're trying to solve.
Some work, basically.
Because, as artists pointed out, building purely on trends risks becoming obsolete. Sustainable growth comes from genuinely solving challenges, continuously listening, adapting, delivering real value.
They had that key question, am I solving something people truly care about? That seems like the fundamental check.
It really is. And the tech startup's source warned about just creating GPT-4 for insert niche. Easy to copy ideas without real defensibility because they aren't solving a deep, unique problem.
Right, just applying a trendy tech layer without addressing a core need.
Exactly. And the Lean Startup Co. folks really hammered this home, too. The need for empathy, for customer centricity.
They quoted Einstein.
Yeah. Spend 55 minutes defining the problem and then 5 minutes solving it. Their point was that so many teams just don't spend enough time truly investigating the customer's problem.
They just jump to solutions.
Right. They even called out how different departments sometimes contribute to the sales promising features, engineers building without understanding context, leadership focusing only on market size, everyone skipping the deep problem understanding.
Ouch. So what was their advice, especially for product teams?
Get engineers involved in customer discovery hearing directly from users in interviews or usability tests. Base early funding decisions more on evidence from problem interviews, not just slick mock-ups or market analysis.
Okay. Evidence over assumptions.
Yeah. And go into those customer conversations with a clear learning goal. Are we validating this problem? Is this the right customer segment? Are there other problems we should know about? Use different techniques depending on what you need to learn.
It all comes back to deeply understanding the people you're trying to serve.
That's the goal, right? Build products people actually love because you took the time to truly understand their struggles.
Okay, so if we were to wrap this all up, what's the main takeaway for someone listening?
I think it's pretty clear. Stop chasing the shiny, fleeting trends. It's exhausting and often leads nowhere sustainable.
Right, instead,
Instead, really dedicate your time and energy to identifying real problems, problems that actual people, your potential customers, are facing, and then really dig deep to understand those problems thoroughly.
Become a problem expert, essentially.
Exactly,
Yeah.
because if you get really good at understanding and solving those genuine problems, you position yourself for lasting value, lasting relevance, no matter what the next hype cycle brings.
Problem solvers are always needed.
Always. So for everyone listening, maybe think about the things we've discussed. What themes really stuck with you? How could you apply this mindset, this focus on problems, to your own work, your own business?
Yeah. What problems are you actually uniquely positioned to solve? What issues do you see that maybe others are overlooking because they're too busy chasing the trends?
And maybe a final thought to chew on. In this world that's so driven by tech hype and fads that come and go, maybe that fundamental skill, the ability to truly understand human problems, connect with people, and find effective solutions, maybe that's the most valuable, most enduring skill of all.
That's a powerful thought. What steps will you take, listener, to get better at understanding the problems around you?
Well, this was a great conversation. Thanks for digging into this with me.
Yeah, likewise. Lots to think about. And thanks to all of you for listening. We'd love to hear your thoughts, your questions. Maybe they'll inspire our next chat.